What is up, everybody? Welcome into another Friday Fix. I am your host, Christian Williams. I am here with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
I'm doing better than this morning, but yeah, we're gonna keep going.
Good stuff. Yeah. All right. So we're here to talk about the New England Patriots. So this hits home for you, Randy. You are a fan of multiple teams, the Patriots being one of them, right?
Yes,
Got to bring back some Sean flavor into the hosting, right?
Sure.
All right. Before we get started, though, just want to point you guys in the direction. Obviously, our Twitter ads are here. If you're watching us on YouTube, we haven't broadcast there in a while, so welcome in. Make sure you guys are dropping a comment with your New England Patriots wish list or just coming to say hi. Also, we just spoke with Connor Rogers this last week, so go subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. We spoke with Damian Parsons as well, which was phenomenal. Randy, how long do you think we talked off air? It was like,
oh Jesus,
it was fucking awesome.
I don't think we got off the call to it was like 8:15, 8:30. We jumped on 6:50. It's only like a half hour interview, so
yeah, it was absurd. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, amazing. Yes.
Yeah, Damian is one of the smartest people I think I've ever spoken to. So, and that's not a knock at Connor Rogers because he is too. So, yeah, so look out for that. That's coming out Tuesday. Go look at the Jamin Davis profile from our contributor, Tom. Go look at the Micah Parsons breakdown article from Adam. All right. And then if this is your first time joining us on the Friday Fix, we go through the entirety of the team. So GM, coaching, sometimes it's a hire. Obviously, with the Patriots, it is not. The state of the team, the current cap situation, top 3 acquisitions, and then a 3-round mock draft. Let's get right into it, man. So as I mentioned earlier, you are a fan of the Patriots. You do keep a close eye on the Patriots. So could you tell me who their coach is? I've never heard of the guy.
Yeah, so coach, GM, greatest of all time, Bill Belichick. I mean, we all know the pedigree. A lot of winning seasons, a lot of Super Bowls. But I mean, the biggest things to go for him, which we'll get to that as well, is that we got to look at his drafting. I mean, we know where he's hit a lot of mid-round picks because they make a lot of them. A lot of defensive studs that he's pulled out of nowhere. Some slot receivers he's pulled out of nowhere. Linemen too. But the real thing is he doesn't hit on early receivers. That's his one Achilles heel. Another thing, he doesn't trade future picks like ever. Like the only one I think he's traded in the last decades, like a future 5th. Like he just does not do it. In reality, I don't think they've ever traded up in the first. Most of the time they trade back at almost any round. They trade back at a large rate. It's going to be, and that's why all the conversation, I believe it was Kuiper had them trading up to 7 or something, or even higher, I think, in his last mock. And it's so hard to wrap your head around that, just knowing what Bill has done for his entire career. He just does not do that.
Yeah.
And while I do think they've studied these top 5 quarterbacks really hard, I just don't think they trade up really. And if they do, it's only a few picks. I think they're kind of letting what happens. Maybe they see if the 49ers trade up so they can go for Jimmy G. I think they're waiting on that, maybe test their market with the guys that are getting uprooted like Bridgewater or Jimmy G and just move on from there.
Yeah. So our good friend over here that has been in the comments the last few weeks. So welcome back. But he said, yeah, he doesn't trade up. But when has there been this level of quarterback available in free agency or by trade? It's true. I mean, there's an abundance of quarterbacks available right now, and the Patriots have never needed one though. So yeah, I mean, we saw last offseason, but that was a weird one too. Randy, I know we'll talk about it a ton as we go through this, but what your first like gut reaction? What do you think they do to fix the quarterback room? Like, other than you said they're not going to trade up.
Yeah, not trade
So,
up, in my opinion. I mean, obviously every team's gonna attempt to go for like Watson. Again, it just doesn't seem like what they do. So I'm gonna pass on that. I think they're really gonna be hoping that they have a chance to get either Jimmy G, Bridgewater, or I mean, next best would probably be like Mariota. I mean, in reality, the one person that I think would fit them greatly would be Darnold, but there's absolutely no chance the Jets trade them Darnold.
yeah.
They would have to cut him, which is idiotic. And you'd think the Jets would do something like that. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Dropping in. I'll take a Brian Hoyer comp. He's a Cleveland legend.
To an extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, in reality, if it's not Jimmy G or Bridgewater, I think you jump down the next tier like Mariota, maybe even like Mitch Trubisky, Alex Smith, Brissett, like,
Yeah.
And then if there's a quarterback there at 15, maybe. I just don't see them making like a bold move because they just. I mean, we've never seen them do it.
Do you think Kellen Mond will be there at 15 for them to take?
I'll kill you. Yes, I think he would be, and it's awful. Please don't do that.
Yeah. All right. So the state of the team portion of this it's really weird with the Patriots because they were really quite good. They were. I mean, they weren't the best team in the world, but they were efficient. And like you said, it was like 4 weeks where the Patriots looked like they were going to be the Patriots of old, and then bang, Cam gets COVID. The season kind of like falters for a second, and then they made another late push kind of. So they're picking at 15. They're the definition of middle of the road. So in terms of DVOA, like you're going to see that reflected. So their team weighted DVOA is 19th in the league. Offense, their run DVOA is 8th. So they had really good. They had a really good rushing attack, and then their pass DVOA was 27th. Obviously, that incorporates Cam Newton, who, for as decent as he was and how efficient as he was, it wasn't through the air. It was running behind that offensive line.
Well, it's not like he had much to throw to, though. So
that's fair as well. And then their defense run DVOA is 18th in the league, and then pass DVOA was 32nd. It should be noted that multiple guys opted out of the season. So I'm trying to think of everyone that did. It was Patrick Chung, Gilmore,
Hightower, McCourty, I believe, one of them. You can go down a list. There's an enormous list, really, offense and defense. It felt like they had the most in the league for sure.
Yeah,
and you add in the loss of guys like Van Noy and Danny Shelton. And they just had a lot of losses on that defense, and they tried to revamp. I think they got a lot of great play from J.C. Jackson. But besides that, I mean, like, I think Duggar had a pretty nice year. Like, there's not a lot to love. I think coming back this year there is, but everyone's another year older. This is definitely an old defense.
It is. Yeah, it is. And people thought going into the year, obviously, with COVID, it definitely, the opt-outs definitely screwed them, but they thought that their defense would still carry them to a playoff berth. And I think we saw, shades of a playoff team at times last year. But, when you have a quarterback, obviously, like we said, he could not really pass the ball because his best weapon was Jacoby Myers. Like, I do want to shout out Joel, who dropped a comment earlier and said, I'll actually read the tweet. So instead of fixing the quarterback, you fix the rest of the offense. There are no weapons. So I'd go after someone like A-Rob or Aaron Jones to get some talent, and then draft a quarterback like Trey Lance or Kyle Trask at 15 and build around them to get back. And then he also followed that up with, it's bigger than quarterback is my point. The best wide receivers are Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry, and Jacoby Myers. The running backs are Sony Michel and Damian Harris. no quarterback besides Brady or Mahomes is going to do anything with those weapons. They need weapons first and then the quarterback.
Yeah.
What are your, I mean, like I said, we'll get into that as we get into like the acquisitions and our drafts, but do you think that just fixing the weapons is going to impact how good this offense is? I mean, like, say they run out Jarrett Stidham, but sign Allen Robinson and Chris Godwin. Like,
I mean, it would definitely help. There's no question that aspect. I think he is right though. They're in a weird spot where they have to mortgage a lot of creatability in that offense this draft season to get a top end quarterback, or they go for a veteran for a year or two, draft a guy in the later rounds, like third or fourth, maybe even second quarterback, and try and move on from there. If you're paying Al Robinson, it looks like he's about to get $20 million a year. It's possible, but I think they drop down a level or two. I think they're going to bring in a veteran tight end. I think they're probably comfortable with their running back situation, at least for what it is. I think they might draft a more pass-catching running back. And James White and Burkhead, probably one of them is going to come back on a cheap deal, so you're pretty much set at running back. Yeah. Offensive line, as long as you bring back one or two guys, you're still solid. Like they really just need wide receiver help badly. They need at least star, whether that's draft or free agency. They need a top end receiving tight end, whether that's just a veteran guy or what. I mean, they drafted two guys back to back basically last year who did nothing, who could be a lot better this year, but I mean, still, like you need something.
Yeah. So that kind of leads us to what people are putting in the chat here, and it's they have cap space. So their current cap situation, they have $68.6 million. Randy, talk to me about the possible cut candidate. There's one.
Yeah, they have great contracts for the most part for this season. They're at $68.6 million in cap space, like we said. The only cuttable contract really is Lacoste, the tight end, who's done absolutely nothing. You're only saving $1.1 billion if you cut him. I still think it's worth it because he's basically worthless. I think you really need to get that roster spot more than the cap space necessarily. And we're both proponents of them bringing in a tight end via the draft or free agency to really be their top end guy. It's going to be tight though.
Yeah. Shout out Kevin for dropping that comment, by the way. Thanks for joining us.
I will say they're not really a team that spends a ton on the running back position. So maybe the Aaron Jones is a little bit out of question, but I mean, they spent a lot to make sure they had Randy Moss at one point. They've paid their slot receivers. So, I mean, all power to them if they can get Allen Robinson. Obviously, they have a litany of free agents of their own. So that's going to cut up probably half their cap space.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we should definitely talk about those guys. So Joe Tooney, I think, is the most important. So there we go. We've got a little ticker going. So Joe Tooney, we put Cam Newton on here. David Andrews, Jason McCourty, and then James White are the top five, but they just have a plethora of other guys. I think, Randy, we talked off air about JC Jackson. They have to retain him. Like that, he's a restricted free agent, and they put a tender on him, right?
They have not. The tender hasn't. They're not allowed to yet. I think the start of the league year has to come. All the signs are pointing to them putting a first round tender on him, probably deservedly so. So that pretty much guarantees no one's gonna sign him. It's kind of the same thing that the Saints did last year with Taysom Hill. They made sure to keep him. It definitely starts there. And then to me, while the Cam Newton's definitely has to be up there because their quarterback position is in such a flux right now, obviously. I'd say their best QB on the roster being Stidham. You have to start with Joe Tooney or David Andrews. I doubt you keep both, but you got to keep one. You have to limit the turnover there, and limit where you need to focus on the draft because there are plenty of spots they need to attack. Obviously, with weapons on the offense being the top end of that issue.
Yeah. Some other guys, John Simon, we mentioned Rex Burkhead, Demir Bird, Brian Hoyer, Dante Moncrief. I mean, come
I
on.
forgot he was even there, to be honest with you, bro.
So did I, yeah. And that's about half the list. Like,
Yeah, I mean, what do we got? John Simon, Illuminor, the guard. He actually rotated a lot. I think there's a good chance they let Tooney walk and bring him back instead at a much cheaper price to bolster
yeah,
that spot. But we'll see. We have to and I mean Brian Hoyer's also a free agent. Their one-time kicker Folk's a free agent. I mean, there's so many people, and you probably only bringing back 5 or 6 of them.
yeah. See,
God damn
so
it, sweet.
he's right, No, I'm just kidding. Randy, I do want to ask you one question here. So obviously we know that their offensive line was definitely their like main strength last year.
Yeah.
That's why their rushing attack was so dynamic. It's why Damian Harris and Sony Michel were able to get things going, and even Rex Burkhead at times. With that being said, do you think they sell out? Do you think there's a chance? I know you said they probably keep one of the two big name guys of Tooney and Andrews, but do you think they just sell out, go secure those two guys, and then figure it out from there?
Probably not. And I think them using a really used franchise tag on Tooney last year kind of almost sealed his fate, to where they knew they needed him last year to be effective, but they didn't want to sign that big money long-term contract. And with the possibility of them gearing more towards like a full-fledged rebuild, if they can't figure out this season, I don't think they get a long-term deal on Tooney where he's going to be the highest paid guard, probably, if it's not Scherf. Like, it's between them two. I mean,
yeah.
And in my opinion, Tooney's much better. So I think he gets an enormous contract. I think, what did we see? He was getting, oh God, what was the per
15?
year? Yeah, like 15 or 16 per year.
Yeah.
Just Jesus.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff. So
deserved, I'm sure, but
yeah, I mean, and Tooney, like he was very good last year. Like I said, the offensive line was by far the best part about the Patriots, unless you include Bill in that. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't. We talked off air again, and they just weren't fun to watch at all. The one thing that was fun to watch was their offensive line opening up freaking the entire sea for their running backs. So, with that being said, let's move into the top 3 acquisitions section here. So their team needs, I mean, they need a lot. And so Randy,
I'm not even sure. Yeah, I mean, we have it. This is just kind of pulled from sites. They had it at quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, D tackle, linebacker, safety, offensive line, basically, because they're trying to figure out who stays and who goes. Running back, cornerback, edge. Yeah, so everything.
Yeah.
But I obviously it has the offensive weapons and replacements at the defensive positions for the older guys, and some guys leaving is where a lot of the value at position is going to be for the draft this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think corner's a sneaky big need, because I've seen. So obviously you bring Jackson back and you're good there, but there are a lot of rumors surrounding Stefan Gilmore and being in trade talks. Sweet. Is that what you were laughing about, Randy? Is bring back Danny Shelton?
Yeah.
It's actually not a bad idea at all. But in terms of the trade discussions, like, I don't know if they're entertaining it. I don't know if it's just media cooking up rumors. I haven't seen anything reputable, but do you think there's a chance they trade like what you could consider kind of the reigning defensive player of the year, because he didn't play? So he's co-reigning at the very least,
So Gilmore had a good year last year. Obviously, he got kind of beat up a little bit by DK, who's just an ungodly kind of person. But I know at the deadline they were asking a first rounder plus a player. And that was considered too much to ask at a deadline kind of price. I think they start there yet again. He's really, really good, and obviously he's a top 3 corner, not even a question. Even if you think he decreased slightly this last year, it doesn't matter. He's still incredible. He's probably deserving of that. And I mean, a first at a player really helps that rebuild hit off right off the top, and I just don't see it happening right now. Maybe at that. It's just with this corner class and the cap situations, it's going to be after free agency if they do that kind of deal, like right before draft or draft day. And maybe that's a future first instead of this year too. So it's going to be son of a bitch.
Not that one. That was the comment I was trying to pull. But
I mean, honestly, the Patriots probably don't say no, sweet, for 26 and greedy. You get corner depth and a first round pick. I don't think they say no. Yeah, but we'll see what happens. Can you do Detroit next week? We actually already have done Detroit.
Yeah. If you scroll through our feed, it'll be there for sure. It's still up. So sweet, to your point, dude. Did you see the article that came out where Greedy said he couldn't even lift his arm up by himself until last month? Not a good look. But he's coming back. They expect a full recovery now, but okay, good. Sweet Red.
I believe he tweeted out this week that he's full clear now. So
he's cleared to. I mean, he's been going through rehab for a very long time. Yeah. I don't know if he's like full clear for like contact yet.
I believe so, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to have contact for the next 3 months anyways. So
true.
As long as he gets through it then. But let's do our free agent pickups here.
Yeah, so I'll go first here. So the Patriots, again, the very, very, very difficult to figure out what they're going to do. So I do have them retaining one of Andrews and Tooney, and then kind of some of these filler depth guys. I think McCourty comes back on a cheap deal to stay with his brother. I think that you could potentially get, like Randy said, Illuminor. I don't know how to say your name, dude. I'm sorry, but yeah. And then you obviously, like I said, bring back J.C. Jackson. But in terms of free agents on the market right now, I think Gerald Everett is not a must. I do think that teams, there was the report that teams are looking at Gerald Everett as a tight end 1, which he is. We on this show told you guys that last year. So Gerald Everett's a very, very talented tight end. So I have them signing him for about $7 million a year. Then I had to address quarterback because, like Randy said, I don't think that they are trading up to get a quarterback in the first round, and I think a first-round quarterback is really the only way to build. So why not get what is an old former first-round quarterback in Alex Smith, who was just released today? Give him about $7 million a year for 1 year, which is, I mean, it's expensive, especially compared to what you paid Cam last year. But I know, Randy, you don't love this, but I think if there's a free agent quarterback on the market right now, like, and I'm not considering Mariota or Bridgewater, guys like that. I think if there's one on the market right now, I mean, a guy that you're going to talk about is probably better, but probably also more expensive. So,
well, I mean, there's guys that we know that they won't go after. Like, probably, in my opinion, the best actual free agent quarterback right now is Jameis Winston. They will not go for him, most likely just because of the turnover prone scenario. Belichick will not put up with that shit. Or I do think he could fix it. He is not, well, obviously not just him because he doesn't truly run the offense, but
yeah,
damn sweet. Damn. But yeah, I think he's the best free agent quarterback. I don't think he's there. Alex Smith is just like, I'm not sure. I think he'll be like, right now I'd say he's better than Stidham just because of his veteran presence and playing time. But like, are you really gonna if you sign Alex Smith, you're drafted a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, no matter what. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, most people would say they should do that anyways.
Yeah.
So
they should. So then Alex Smith was my second, and then shout out to Sweet, but I have them snagging Shelby Harris on a $4 million a year deal for a couple years. I think it's worth it. Shelby Harris was really good last year. Obviously a cap casualty technically of the Broncos. We just talked about that last week. So I think he would slide in and kind of fit that interior defensive line need that they have a little better than Danny Shelton. So
sweet burning Detroit fans that will be fixing them every year, probably.
Factual.
Could the Pats realistically get a Watson or a Wilson? Most likely not. Only because of the fact that, like I said before, Belichick does not tend to trade future picks, and you have to trade a ton of future picks for that. Most likely 2 or 3 first to start off, especially 3 with Watson. So,
yeah, it'd be tough. I mean, they do have the cap space to incur something like that. I mean,
yeah, of course they're top 4 or 5 at cap, maybe even top 3. Like,
yeah,
they're up there with Jacksonville and Indianapolis. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
All right, man. Who are you signing?
Okay, well, I'm just like you. I think they retained one of Tooney or Andrews. I think it's Andrews because he's cost about half the price. Probably mostly because of his injuries and health concerns for the last couple of years. But he's a top-rate center. I think they bring back at least one of Butler or Lawrence Guy. Probably Simon on a cheap deal, Bird a cheap deal. McCourty's definitely coming back. I think one of White or Burkhead's back at a cheaper deal. I mean, so there's a lot of bring back options there. For signings, though, I went with either Kyle Rudolph or Jared Cook, who obviously both got released relatively soon here. If they don't want to pay up for that top end, younger tight end experience like Johnny Smith or Gerald Everett or anyone like that, I think they'd bring in a veteran guy like Rudolph or Jared Cook, who's not going to be off the charts, but he can help Asiasi and Keen grow this next offseason, hopefully. So that's a good spot there. Then I went with Curtis Samuel. I mean, I think he would absolutely kill it in this kind of offensive scheme. Obviously, you got Edelman, who's, like 35, like he's on his last leg. Consider retirement this year anyways. You bring in the guy of the future, Curtis Samuel, for a 4-year deal, probably about 12 per because of the betting where it's going to happen for him, but he is going to be electric in this offense. He could be your guaranteed number 1 playmaker, and then you just have to get more pure receivers to add with that. But because I spent a lot on that, and you do need some kind of veteran quarterback here, I'm assuming the rumors are that Mariota will not be traded because of his contract situation, where if he's a starter, he's getting like $20 million a year, I believe, if he starts like 16 games. So I do think he gets cut in the long run because it does save him like $10 million. And the Raiders are cutting guys left and right and putting guys on the trade block to free up all the cap space they can. Apparently to sign Juju, I assume, but we'll see where that goes. But Marcus Mariota, I think, is kind of the best option out here. Obviously, I said Jameis was, but I just don't see that happening. Mariota does not turn the ball over for the most part. He does not take this huge shots or risk. If he plays like he kind of played for the Raiders in that small spot, I think that fits perfectly with what this offense would be. And if you put enough weapons around him, even with him being a middle-of-the-road quarterback, I mean, that's what he's not going to be top 10 or anything like that. But he's definitely got a better arm right now than at least Cam did. Cam did. So yeah. I think he could really have a really career resurgence, like how he got replaced by Tannehill. Maybe he could do the same thing for the Patriots. And then the other guy at the same price would be Trubisky. He's the only young guy I see them taking a shot on. And I would assume he would sign like a 1 or 2 year, $8 million deal just to get a shot to start again to prove himself. Because he's not going back to the Bears most likely. And then you're down to one of like 3 teams that he could sign for. Well, I guess 5, but like 3 that he have a shot to play. Really, only 2 that give him an amazing shot to play. So,
Yeah,
I just don't understand how you could go wrong with those 2 quarterbacks at that kind of price.
it's a good one.
Yeah.
You're right.
Obviously, I will say, if they reconcile with Cam and they truly think he's back to full health again, like he was to start the year, I mean, I don't think that's a bad signing. I think that's along the levels of what I brought to the table here.
Yeah. Where does Russ go? Seattle.
He's not going. It's the same thing with Kyler, with Wilson, that his camp and him are just trying to get him saved, trying to get them to draft a fucking O-lineman just so these guys don't scramble for their lives, in my opinion. And I will say, there's not. I saw a comment about Curtis Samuel. There's not an ungodly production down the stretch. He was unstoppable.
He was.
I mean, that's just plain simple. And with the play calling here for New England, I think he fits incredibly. That's why. I just don't think, but he's not going to be your number 1 option. I mean, that's plain and simple. Like, he wasn't for the Panthers. He's a gadget player, but he could play running back and wide receiver. But he did develop more as a wide receiver this year. Really impressive. But again, he's 2 tiers down from Allen Robinson. Like, there's a 20 million, then there's like that 15-60. He's in the 12 million. Like, he's obviously down, but that's just what I just think that's around the tier they'd pay. Just how they've paid in the past. They tend to trade back and take 5 4th-round picks and hit on 2 of them a year. I mean, that's just how they do it.
And if you go look at Matt Harmon's reception perception, Curtis Samuel was underutilized and just in the incorrect role 2 years ago, and they finally used him in a way that made sense, but he also should have had that Robbie Anderson role. It didn't. I mean, I don't know what. I guess I do get what they were doing, because obviously Robbie Anderson was Matt Rule's like recruit and stuff, but yeah. So I like Curtis Samuel quite a bit. Sweet. Not yet. We will
at the end.
Maybe maybe at the end,
at the finale of the episode.
Right. All right. So let's hop into our draft first.
Let's do a dueling again. I like that so much more.
Dueling where we go back and forth.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna put the graphic up so we can spoil the picks a little bit, but
that's fine.
All right. So my first pick, I do not go with a quarterback despite signing Alex Smith, and I'm taking Rashad Bateman. Like Joel said in those tweets that I read earlier, the Patriots need weapons more than anything. You can plug and play a quarterback if you put a guy out there that can catch the ball. Rashad Bateman is a stud wide receiver. So I think that he is a really, really good shout at the 15th overall pick. I think he immediately steps in and he's their wide receiver 1, and I think he does it well.
Yeah, and he really, I mean, he's your wide receiver 1. Obviously, he's shown the ability to go on inside and outside, and I think he's just going to continue to get better and better. There's some early, obvious Keenan Allen and Justin Jefferson comps for this guy. I think that fits. I mean, how many years have we been talking about how the Patriots might trade for Keenan Allen? I mean, it's gone on like 6 years, I think. Like, now they just get it. Now I'm starting out, obviously, now with a quarterback, and it's mainly because I think there's a chance that Mac Jones falls to them at 15, but I think there's an amazing chance that if he's there at 13 or 14, someone like Washington or Chicago or Pittsburgh or New Orleans even trade up and get Mac Jones at 13 or 14 just to make sure the Patriots don't, because they assume they will. And like I said, the Patriots, not going up, it tends to make it fall. So I with Micah Parsons at linebacker, kind of to pair with Hightower / replace him. But he's just a freak athlete. He's a guy that will be able to be versatile inside, outside, blitzing. That's perfect for that Patriots defense. And here's the other thing. Like our comment just said, Mac Jones had a ton of weapons in college.
He did.
Right now, if we drafted him at 15, he'd have 2 weapons. I mean,
Maximum.
Yeah.
Maximum.
Yeah. So it's just hard. Yeah. He's
yeah.
never in sweet, that's fair, but the years of Brady make that a hard statistic to live by. That's
True.
the only problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go next? You want me to hit?
I'll go next. Yeah. So then at 46, I gave him a receiver that we both love, the Saquon Barkley of wide receivers. Rondale Moore looks exactly the fuck like a body type. Incredible pictures of late. He's somehow as big as DK Metcalf while being half the size, it feels like. I mean, what I think he perfectly fits this Patriots scheme. A guy that has lived off screens, slants, and all that. You're telling me that they're not going to work with him? They're not going to get him to be perfect in that system? The fighting. Calm down, kids. Rondo Moore, there's a lot to learn about him with deep routes, I guess, and like post corners, that kind of stuff. Just a little bit of route running past the 10-yard mark. But let's be honest, Michael Thomas can't fucking do that apparently. So I think Rondo Moore can really shine in this offense. And we get a replacement for Edelman for the future. But if you pair him with Curtis Samuel, and then if you can get a pass catchy tight end, hopefully you can get N'Keal Harry to do anything, and you're still going to need to draft a bigger body, a little bit more versatile guy in the 4th or 5th round, in my opinion, just to help out that receiving corps even more because it's so desperate. But I think it's amazing here.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we love us some Rondale Moore on this show, and I'm gonna continue pumping him up because people are all over the place on him, but definitely a value at the 46th pick. So here's the thing, guys. There's no second round quarterback that really makes sense. So again,
I mean, the only one I think could be close to like the fit would be Trask. You know what I mean? And but even then I think they'd trade back.
I was just gonna say it'd be a reach at the 46th pick. I think if they're back end of the second, maybe. Like I think Trask probably goes in the second round. I think Kellen Mond, who I'll obviously talk about here in a little bit, he might go in the second round as well. But the Mond train is still in park, so we'll see. But at the 46th pick, I'm giving them another wide receiver in De'Ami Brown. So you get your underneath wide receiver 1, dominates in short to intermediate, and then you go get the guy that can take the top off. Now, Alex Smith, he can't take the top off, but you're obviously not drafting with the intention of having Alex Smith as your quarterback long term. So this would have your offense looking like Bateman, De'Ami Brown, Jacoby Myers, Julian Edelman, Gerald Everett, and then one of the other 2 tight ends, because I assume they run some 12 personnel in this case. So, I mean, that is how you quick fix this, I think, is you go get weapons and you make that offense better. Because like we said, you've got some guys on defense coming back. So I rolled with 2 wide receivers back to back, hoping that, one of them's going to hit, right?
Both of those guys are hidden, in my opinion, but Bateman's a for sure guy for me, but Brown has shown so much potential on multiple fronts, so I'm all with him. And then we go with actually it's your pick. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. So Kellen Mond is my quarterback of choice. I do believe he's a 2nd or 3rd round guy. Chris Sims believes otherwise. Kellen Mond is as project as it gets, in my opinion. He's inaccurate. He makes bad reads. He doesn't really make reads, but we saw it in the second half of the Senior Bowl where when he clicks it on, it's on, and he's extremely good. So if Bill can unlock that version of Kellen Mond, then you have your quarterback of the future. That's a guy that can start for you for 10 to 12 years. Of course, you're taking him in the third round, so if he doesn't, that's fine. Like the mid-round quarterbacks rarely hit. The Patriots obviously know that now with Jarrett Stidham. He's a little later round, but Kellen Mond gives you at least a gunslinger mentality, so he can get the ball to De'Ami Brown or get the ball to Rashad Bateman even. If Alex Smith turns out to be as bad as I think he probably will be this next year. So that's the insurance pick, and that's a high upside pick in the third round. So
100%. There's no other quarterback in the third that's even close to Mond or Trask or once you get past that level, it's just such a huge drop down. The only guy that I would even consider would be like Jamie Newman, just because of the overall questions there and potential high upside that rivals Mond. All right. And then my last pick of this is going to be Benjamin St-Juste, the corner from Minnesota. I think he's going to thrive in a little bit of a cover 3 single high scheme, as well as a lot of press heavy. That's the fucking Patriots. So when you have a possibility of losing your 2 top cornerbacks, or in the future losing at least one of them, I think you drafting a guy in the 3rd or 4th round to help bolster that secondary this year. You drafted a safety last year, so a guy like Cisco or someone like that, safety could be in the running, but I think you pass a little bit, maybe go a little bit later, maybe get a more of a single high cover safety in the 5th or something like that. But I hit 3 positions here, and you could clearly tell from, if you know this Patriots team at all, even with our free agency, they have a chance to make the playoffs here if the quarterback works out, but they're still a while away from being to what they were.
Yeah. I mean, I really like the St. Juste pick. I haven't studied him in depth, but I have seen a couple games here, and I think that's a guy. I mean, I forgot that you had him selected when I was talking about the need at corner, so definitely works out. I think they will be able to find some late. I mean, and here's the thing, guys. I think you can find late round or mid round receivers that make sense, like 3rd, 4th, 5th. But because the Patriots need is so drastic, like they have legitimately one starting wide receiver, in my opinion, and it's not Julian Edelman. I don't think he's that anymore. I think he's better as a filler, rotational slot situational guy. I think your one starter at wide receiver is Jacoby Myers, and that is not what you want. So we both fixed that in some form or fashion. So
and I even pointed out immediately after I picked more that they're going to need to get another outside kind of big body guy, especially because we've seen no progression from N'Keal Harry, which is definitely depressing, but definitely adds into the whole Bill can't scout wide receivers. Even though N'Keal Harry was mostly regarded as between the 1st and 2nd round pick that year, so I don't think he technically was rough there. I do think Jacoby Myers retains a high spot in this rotation. I'm very curious to see what Edelman does. Yeah, you're welcome, sweet. Very curious to see what he comes back as. A lot of injuries, getting up in the age, and I mean, he might be a guy that there's a chance he tries to get out of New England just because of his age. Maybe he wants to take one more shot, signs with the Chiefs or signs with the Packers or Bucks. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to avoid saying the Bucks, bro.
They all want to go back and play with Brady. Let's be real. So
can't blame them.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's our 3-round mock. So I did a complete overhaul of the offense, and we'll figure out the defense later. You definitely kept defense in mind quite a bit, which is probably either one is good because, like we said, the Patriots have quite a bit of problems, and they have a lot of cap room, and they have some capital to fix it. So,
well, and you could argue the defense and O-line is where they're best off, but if you look at the defense, even their best players are getting old, really old too. J.C. Jackson's the only guy that's really, and probably Chase Winovich, I guess, are the only ones that are shining right now that are younger. Duggar's getting there, I guess, but like you only saw flashes. We'll see how this all builds. I think you got to really, they're desperate need of weapons on offense, but they need to still take shots on defense in this draft. They're going to be trading back. So one of these, I doubt they pick at one of these two second or third round picks.
Yeah, man. Well, and here's the thing: we're here for the Friday fix. I personally don't think they take a first round receiver. I don't think they probably take a second round receiver. They might take a second round receiver.
They definitely are. They're taking a receiver the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. But again, if they sign Allen Robinson and Curtis Samuel, they're not drafting a receiver the first 2 rounds. Not a question. It's not a question.
Very true. But it would be, in my last mock, I had them trade back and then take an offensive lineman to replace Tooney. So, which is a very Bill thing to do.
But they like what they got. I'm just trying to say.
I know. They do. All right. That does it for our fix of the New England Patriots. Again, guys, what's that?
I was going to say, do you want to talk about WandaVision quick for Sweet?
Oh, yeah. So if you guys have not watched WandaVision yet, please leave. That sounds awful. Please come back next week. However, we're gonna drop our, I guess, reactions to WandaVision, the finale today. Randy, you watched it. What did you think of it?
I think it was a great ending to it. Still leaves a ton of questions.
Yes,
but I do love how WandaVision has kind of helped the B-rate movies of the Marvel Universe get a little bit better. Just add in little things. But yeah, awesome fight scenes to end. Weird kind of enslavement at the end there. But we'll see. We get, I think, a 1 week break until we get a whole new series with Falcon and Winter Soldier. So
who still wants to know who your favorite team is?
Raiders. It goes Raiders, Browns, Patriots. I'm from Cleveland, basically, so I've grown up a fan of the Browns. My dad's a fan of the Raiders for his whole life, so I grew up as a fan of the Raiders. Patriots is more personal reasons. But, yeah.
My reaction to the WandaVision finale, and I've been watching some things and talking about it. There are some people who think that it's bad, and it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I watched the Lights Camera Barstool breakdown of it afterwards, and all 4 of the guys on there were like, okay, it wasn't bad, but they also didn't, like, there were no cameos, and then the Evan Peters stuff turned out to be a fluke. And so people are disappointed because they like built this all up in their head. They were talking all these fan theories. You can't judge a show based on that. Like, overall, if you just take episode 1 to episode 9 and think about what that story is, like, that show is fucking phenomenal. It blew my mind that Marvel just hopped in. They said, we're going to make TV shows now, and they made something that good.
Great acting through and through, in my opinion, as well. So,
dude, Elizabeth Olsen, I keep screaming it. She deserves an Emmy, and she might get one. I mean, overall, the story is just about grief, and she sold it. It was good.
Learning true powers. I forgot that she'd never really been called the Scarlet Witch up until this point. I just kind of knew it already, but I don't know. I do think it's set up a bunch of exactly. I think it's set up a bunch of things. It's just everyone's a little disappointed that like Doctor Strange should come in and save the day, or a new huge villain popped in like Mephisto or something. So I mean, I guess that does suck, but I mean, you get what you get. I think it's 9 great episodes, and hopefully the next show, which seems weird to me on paper, Falcon and
the Winter Soldier,
where they really only have an involvement of fighting each other and then trying to help Cap in Civil War. That's their entire thing.
So
hopefully they figure it out.
I'm with you, Sweet. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I am stoked for this show. not for the storyline, because I think the story is going to be good, but the action in this show is going to be up there with like the Winter Soldier, and I can't wait. They spent $150 million on this fucking show, which is absurd.
I think that's the one thing a lot of people that are kind of used to Marvel may not have liked WandaVision is that there's not a ton of action. It's just a lot of like weird stories and a lot of like possibly mini like, hey, this could be something. But they also could have just been randomly on a board somewhere and people are just overreacting because they want to find something fun to have. But I mean, I know we get that in like 2 weeks. I know Black Widow comes out in like May, but like, and obviously that's from the past basically now. So there's not really there's not a lot of like new stuff coming out necessarily, unless Falcon and Winter Soldier really step up that pace. But do you remember where it's like set?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
Like in the timeline?
Yes, yeah.
It's right after Endgame. So I think all of these things, so the things that we have that are happening right after Endgame are Spider-Man Far From Home, WandaVision, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then obviously Doctor Strange immediately follows WandaVision. So I think those are the main things that are immediately following. I don't know about Eternals or Shang-Chi or anything like that. So
yeah, we'll figure that out down the line, I think. But I think it was a great series, and I'm excited for the next one.
Hell yeah!
Just have to wait, unfortunately. Do you know if they're doing like a week by week, or they're going to do that like 3 batch to start?
I think they're just straight week to week. They haven't really announced it yet, but I assume that more eye contact, please. Sorry, I'm thinking. They haven't announced it yet, but I think they'll just go week to week. I think the 2 episode drop was just a come watch WandaVision for an hour.
Yeah, I kind of hope they do it with the batch drop there, but we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, and also the making of WandaVision drops next Friday. So
yeah, the behind the scenes stuff, I may watch it, but behind the scenes stuff, I tend to not get into as much, especially because the second it comes out, I'll be able to see whatever the fuck's on it through various apps.
Very true.
Because they immediately talk about it the second it's over.
Yeah.
Which I guess we're on that trend, even though it's still technically the same day it came out. So
true. All right. We're gonna get out of here. I have to coach in the morning, so I need to go to sleep here soon. So
fun.
Yeah, so make sure you guys go subscribe to the podcast. Just search The Cut FFB in your favorite podcast app if you don't already. We would love some 4 or 5 star reviews if you don't listen to us there. You guys in the comments just kill me, man. You distract me so much. So much. But yeah, so go subscribe to that. Follow us on Twitter at The Cut FFB. Follow me at FFBaldman. Follow Randy at Randy_Hall71. We'll be back next week. We'll figure out who.
Yeah, our next episode will at the conclusion it'll say the teams that we're gonna have. It's 2 of the teams I think are the Browns, and
we're putting the Saints on.
Browns Saints. We'll figure it out past then.
Yeah.
But our next episode is our interview with Damian Parsons and something else to be determined because we're busy / lazy, and we'll figure it out Monday, I'm sure. But it'll be something off topic. Maybe there'll be a trade between now and then. Probably not, but who fucking knows? We'll figure it out. I don't know.
Very true. All right, guys. For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We will talk to you guys next week. Later.